This is the Barranco neighborhood of Lima, Peru. Most people consider this one of the best places to stay and visit of all the 43 districts within the city. Situated right on the Pacific Ocean, this is the artistic hipster part of Lima. In this video, I'll hit the top features and show you some of the places that have become my favorites. There are some that you might have heard of and more that you most certainly haven't. There will be food, drinks, attractions, and beauty. Let's get to it. Barranco was at one time a beach escape for the wealthy elite of Lima, where they built summer homes. Some of the architecture remains from those days, and it has been joined by street art and cool businesses. It's said that many of Peru's top artists, musicians, and photographers call this district home. From my perspective, it was just the perfect place to visit. There is an unassuming wooden bridge in the heart of the neighborhood that is probably Barranco's most famous element. This is called the Bridge of Sighs. A bridge was first built here in 1876, and it has been damaged and rebuilt several times since then. The span is about 30 meters long. That is just long enough to make the legend surrounding the bridge a bit challenging. Apparently, if the first time a person crosses the structure, they can hold their breath the entire way, the wish that they concentrated so hard on the way across will come true. That is especially the case for couples which make the crossing together. If they are successful, they will be granted everlasting love. It doesn't take long to see people making the attempt. Sometimes they are in groups. Sometimes their quest is done solo. More often than not, those who try achieve their goal.
I made it! All right, now it better come true.
Without the legend and the associated tests, this bridge wouldn't be given a thought. As it is, it has significant appeal. It's a really cool tradition, and I would say that everybody who comes here has to try it. So here goes. Nah, that wouldn't be a very exciting 20 or 30 seconds of video. Just trust me, I made it. Make sure you give it a shot if you ever find yourself in Barranco. Accessing this church is one of the reasons the Bridge of Sighs was built. It is Iglesia La Ermita. This dates to the mid-18th century. The facade is attractive, but the rest of the adobe church is in ruins. It was destroyed in the earthquake that hit Peru in 1974. Aside from the front face, it was never repaired or reopened. That earthquake registered at 8 on the Richter scale. There was once a creek that flowed through the ravine underneath the Bridge of Sighs. The stream, though, has now been replaced by the Bajada de Baños. It is a path that allows for easy access to the ocean from the heart of the neighborhood. Along the way, there are restaurants and shops. As I passed along, there was a painter working to capture the scene that was laid out in front of him. It's always a pleasure for me to watch an artist at work. Continuing on the descent, there is a plaza which provides a place to rest if needed and gives a great view of the Pacific below. This is a very pleasant walk, but also one which contains history. This used to be the path that fishermen who lived up on top of the cliff used to get to and from the ocean. From the little plaza, it's just a short distance down to the beach. The path crosses over the highway and then deposits those who have walked out onto the shore. At this spot, the beach consists of the same sort of rocks that were present when I visited the shore in Miraflores. Likewise, the same pleasant sound was generated as the rocks banged together as waves receded back into the ocean. Be sure to make at least one trip to the water if you visit. It's a whole other side of the neighborhood that adds to the entire picture of the place. If nothing else, it gives an opportunity to capture that social media moment in front of the Barranco letters. That can't be missed. Virtually all of the beach that I've seen in Barranco and Miraflores has been rocky. Come down the hill from the Bridge of Sighs, however, cross the bridge, cross the road, come down to the beach, take a left, and you'll find this stretch of sand, perfect for lounging and maybe taking a dip in the Pacific. It is currently late fall in the southern hemisphere and temperatures are cool to warm. I've heard that in the hot summer months, this stretch of sand is quite popular. You return to the main part of the neighborhood the same way that you came, over the Bajada de Baños. The climb is an easy one. Back at the top, there's a little path that leads beside the ruined church. Along the way, there is a fence where couples have attached love locks to symbolize their undying devotion to each other. I always wonder how many of the couples who added the locks are still together. Anyway, go a bit farther, and there's a great little viewpoint. This is the Mirador Catalina Recaveron. There is a nice vista with both a seascape and a good look at the ravine. An interesting note, Barranco in Spanish means ravine, so this is one of the features that gives the neighborhood its name. Nearby, there is a massive collection of street art. All sorts of images are painted on the walls in this location. They are full of meaning and color. No matter where I go, if there's street art, I'm all in. I think it adds so much color, vibrancy, and life to a community. I mentioned before that Barranco is known as the hipster, artistic part of Lima. This is what you get when an area has such a reputation. While this spot has a high concentration of murals, there are plenty more standalone instances of street art throughout the neighborhood. There is a strong street art connection to a cool little museum here. This is the Jade Rivera Museum. It features paintings from the artist through his career. Rivera was born in 1983 and has spent virtually his entire life in Lima. Attracted to art from an early age, Rivera found his first outlet on the streets, creating images on the black canvas that an empty wall presented. From there, his talent allowed him to flourish. The thing I like most here is it shows the evolution of his work. Starting with graffiti, he had no intention of being an artist. Then, by improving his technique, his work is now much more complex and nuanced. The museum follows the evolution of Rivera's work, from street art all the way to the studio. I read on the internet where the artist once said, quote, "My paintings remind me that every second we die and we fade," end quote. Interesting, just like his artwork. Apparently, Rivera sometimes works in a studio adjacent to the museum. Just down the street, there is a shop that offers an impressive artistic experience. The amount and the quality of the pieces at Dédalo are both astounding. Situated in a colonial-style mansion, this place features the work of around 700 artisans. All sorts of mediums are represented. The majority comes from Peruvian craftspeople and designers. There is room after room of special items. I particularly like this space, which was devoted to items created with wool from alpacas. This is a particularly fascinating spot to spend a little time. Once you've seen all of the artwork, there is a phenomenal coffee shop located in the back. Here, it's possible to get culinary creations that serve to enhance the experience. I visited one other museum full of artwork in Barranco. This is the Museum of Contemporary Art. It is located at the northernmost part of the neighborhood. Founded in 2013, the facility features a permanent collection as well as temporary exhibits. There are three main areas where the work can be experienced. Primarily, this site gives voice to artists who work from the 1950s and 60s to the present day. I enjoyed spending about a half hour viewing what was on display. Equally as impressive as the exhibits on the inside is this exterior space. Each time I walk by here, I see people enjoying nature, and I've also seen events being held out here. There is a charge to get in to see the exhibits, but it was free to take advantage of the outside space. A character from the comics in Argentina has a perch in Barranco. Mafalda sits on a bench in a park looking out over the Pacific Ocean. The comic strip ran in newspapers decades ago, but the figure remains popular. This also shows the strong ties between Peru and Argentina. The park here is called Alameda Sans Peña. It is a long, thin stretch of green space between two streets. Benches are provided, and there are several monuments, the most prominent of which is a memorial obelisk on an island in the middle of a street. The Clifftop in Barranco is stunning. Essentially, no buildings are situated right on the edge, so everyone can delight in being in such a magnificent environment. The Malecon provides a path to get the most out of the space. It has lots of room for pedestrians and also lanes dedicated for bikers. For the most part, I do my morning walks on the Malecon in Miraflores, but this one is every bit as nice. It's got the same great views of the Pacific and parks all along the way. Throughout the day and into the evening, the Malecon here is always full of people, just happy to be outside. Even when the distance was farther, I mostly walked through this area to get from place to place. Those cliffside parks are amazing, with flowers and trees and paths and the most marvelous views. This Parque de Mariposas was pretty sweet. It provided all sorts of plants designed to attract butterflies. Everything was well tended, and there were a few times when I spotted butterflies actually taking advantage of what was placed there for them. Not far from the Bridge of Sighs is the main park in the neighborhood. The decent-sized Municipal Park of Barranco is a prime gathering place. It features open space, green space, fountains, and statues. A very attractive combination of elements. It seemed like there was always a good mix of residents and visitors enjoying the atmosphere. The park was dedicated all the way back in 1899. To one side of the park is the Biblioteca Municipal de Barranco, or the public library. It was added to the scene in 1922. The tower on top gives the building a very distinctive look. I dropped inside for a few moments. There were a few people reading and several stacks of books, but nothing overly special. Still, it's attractive and worth spending a few moments wandering through, as well as admiring the structure from the outside. On the opposite side of the park is the Parroquia La Santísima Cruz, or Holy Cross. Built in the 19th century, it had to be renovated after damage from the 1940 earthquake. There's a lot of beauty included with both the church and its grounds. Tucked away on a side street near the center of the neighborhood is a hip little market. This is La Feria Union de Barranco. Essentially, that can be translated as the Independent Fair. There are a couple dozen shops featuring the work of makers from the district. Food outlets are also a part of the scene. It looks as though the market is open from Wednesday through Sunday, with the action here lasting until 9 or 10 at night. Another very attractive park is the Parque de los Heroes. Dedicated in 1930, this place pays tribute to soldiers and residents who tried to defend the area in the Pacific War. That involved Peru, Chile, and Bolivia, beginning in 1879 and lasting until 1883. It was Chilean soldiers who invaded this region and went on to occupy Lima in the middle of that war. This park was right around the corner from where I stayed. Among the businesses surrounding it is the Monte Rosa Gelateria. It was recommended by the person who owns my Airbnb. The flavor that I got is Chirimoya Alegre. The best I can understand, that translates to happy custard apple. Grabbing the gelato and heading to the park supplied a pleasant little diversion in the afternoon. Numerous restaurants are scattered through Barranco, and I'll talk about many of them in a future video. One that I'll mention now is El Muelle Cevicheria. It is not much to look at, and the tables and plastic chairs are simple. What the place does offer, though, is some of the best ceviche that can be found. My order here is mixed ceviche. It includes fish, of course, but also shrimp and squid. On the side, there's large kernel corn and sweet potato. It's quite a plate of food. That is the typical way for ceviche to be served here. Ceviche, for those who don't know, consists of fish and other types of seafood marinated in lime juice. The acidity of the lime juice effectively serves to cook the fish. Done right, the freshness and flavors are overwhelmingly positive. This was definitely done right. I made my way to Juanito Barranco to get Peru's national cocktail. This place is old school. It opened in 1937 and today serves sandwiches and drinks. I was invited to watch as my Pisco Sour was constructed. A Pisco Sour is made with 3 ounces of Pisco, which is a brandy, an ounce of simple syrup, an ounce of lime juice, several drops of bitters, and half an egg white. The result is a drink that is sweet, just a touch sour, and has the most intriguing egg white topping. It was extremely interesting watching this being made. The egg white was just dumped in with all the other ingredients. The key, they say, is not to blend it. The key is to shake it. And it looks like that gentleman behind the bar has shaken a few in his time. This is excellent. You wonder how many Pisco Sours have been served at a site such as this over the decades. In a nod to its authenticity, Juanito Barranco accepts only cash, even while every other place I went took credit cards. The setting was quite special at Invictus Brewing. Being situated in one of those old mansions I mentioned earlier made the experience here more than just having a beer. That was pretty good too, though. My selection here, the Brujo Coffee Stout. It's actually really smooth. Invictus is a well-respected brewery, and this is its first tap room. It opened early in 2023. There are numerous types of surroundings to enjoy inside and outside of the mansion, so a person can manufacture their own experience when having a brew here. I was drawn to Ciclos Cafe because I heard it has a chocolate museum. That was located in a space upstairs and gave some good information about chocolate and its place in Peru. I, however, discovered much more than chocolate here. When I popped in, the owner and a couple of friends were roasting in the back and trying out different types of beans and methods of treating them. This was all about experimentation.
My lot is pretty little, and we use this roaster for little lots.
I hung out for a bit, but then my drink was ready. I certainly didn't want it to cool down too much. That was Felipe, the owner, who invited me into the back there for that roasting session. They really take their chocolate and their coffee seriously here, and it shows in what ends up in the cup. This cafe hits all the right notes in terms of a place that you want to drop in for a while. The space is remarkable, the beverages are flavorful, and the desire to keep pushing to make each cup better than the last is commendable.
We are complicated persons in coffee. We try to extract the better version in every shop.
Talk about a setting to have a coffee or something to eat. Sofa Cafe is among the best I have ever seen. As expected from the name, there are comfortable seats. The artwork also creates a scene into which you just want to immerse yourself for an hour or so. Add in tasty cappuccino, and you've got what amounts to a winning combination. I couldn't even begin to count the number of coffee shops in the neighborhood, and most of them are really good. This one, however, has become one of my favorites. Sofa Cafe is a small chain with 3 other locations other than the one here in Barranco. Barranco is where my Airbnb was located. This was one of the top units that I've rented during my time on the road. Modern, comfortable, and well decorated. It was also in a great location. This was the scene on my very first night in Peru, and I only had to walk a block from where I was staying to take it in. What a first impression. One city, Lima. One neighborhood, Barranco. After seeing all of that, I think you would have to agree that this is a beautiful, special place. So far, this is my favorite location where I've stayed through all of my travels. If you like this video, check out my other recent one about Miraflores. That is right next to Barranco here in Lima and the other top neighborhood in the city. I always appreciate you watching Old, Alone, and Far From Home. See you soon.